I'm Larissa Harvey, and this is my Culturally Responsive Library Audit Project, and I'm interning in a 4- and 5-year-olds classroom at a school in Mesa, Arizona. I reviewed 50 books in my classroom library. But first, we're going to begin with our first slide discussing gender of characters in the books I reviewed. On this slide, you can see that majority of the books in my classroom library had male characters versus female characters. Non-human characters in the books I found had about half as many female characters as there were male characters. On this slide, you can see the examples I provided from my classroom, which have many female main characters of various racial backgrounds, but male main characters still outnumbered the female main characters. On this slide, you can see that there were more books representing Latino and Latina characters in my classroom library than any other race. On this slide, you can see that many main characters in the books I reviewed were actually non-human characters versus human characters with diverse racial backgrounds. On this slide, you can see that 15 books were set in rural areas, 14 books were set in urban areas, 14 books were set in suburban areas, and only 2 books were set in the desert. On this slide, you can see that less than half of the books in my classroom library portrayed a family structure other than a mother, father, and 2 children. There was only about 38% of the books I reviewed that had a family structure other than a mother, father, and 2 children. On this slide, you can see that majority of the books I reviewed had characters who spoke primarily English. 9 books had characters who spoke Spanish, and the books were also written in both languages. On this slide, you can see that only 1 book out of the 50 I reviewed portrays a character with a disability. Most books do not portray characters with disabilities, but my intern mentor teacher stated that she plans to add more books in this specific area. On this slide, you can see that only 4 out of the 50 books I reviewed address economic struggle or poverty. On this slide, you can see that my classroom consisted of 9 girls and 9 boys. Both the lead teacher and the assistant teacher were women. You can also see that majority of my class is also made up of white students, although my intern mentor teacher is Native American and my assistant teacher is Latina. On this slide, you can see that majority of the class has a family structure other than a mother, father, and 2 children. On this slide, you can see that a majority of the students primarily speak English, but 6 of the students out of the 18, plus the assistant teacher, speak fluent Spanish and are currently learning English. After reviewing my classroom library, I noticed that many of the books were a mirror for my students because many are living in a family structure other than a mother, father, and 2 children. And that was represented in quite a few of the books I found in my class library. It was also a mirror for students who are emergent bilinguals because they're seeing their home language valued, represented, and appreciated in the books we read. I believe my classroom library also served as a window because although there were not an abundance of books on characters with disabilities or Native American characters, the few books we did have really opened up new learning experiences for the children because it's something different from their own culture and background. Also, most of my students have never come in contact with someone with a disability, so it also opens up windows for that as well. I believe the class library was a window opportunity for students who spoke only English because they were able to learn about their peers who spoke primarily Spanish, and the students in my class became engaged and interested in a language and culture other than their own.